Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for this Human-in-the-Loop webinar today. My name is Clarisse and I am the marketing coordinator for Human-in-the-Loop. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this session on how to achieve safe and trustworthy AI with a human-in-the-loop. In the domain of AI, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment in history, and it's fascinating. As AI technologies continue to evolve and transform various industries, it becomes crucial to understand the significance of keeping AI system human-centric and ethical. At the heart of this paradigm lies the concept of the human-in-the-loop, an approach that empowers humans to collaborate with AI systems in an harmonious partnerships. In recent years, we have witnessed remarkable advancement in AI, enabling machines to perform tasks that were once thought to be exclusively within the domain of human intelligence. From autonomous vehicles to medical diagnosis, AI has the potential to revolutionize our lives. To answer the responsible development and deployment of AI, it is vital that we prioritize human values, ethics, and safety throughout the entire life cycle of these systems. We must design AI technologies that augment human capabilities, and enhance decision-making processes, and respect fundamental human rights. This is great, but how do we do it? And that's why I would like now to give the word to my colleague, Gary Gavrilov, Chief Commercial Officer of Human-in-the-Loop. Gary, how are you doing?
Hi, Clarisse. Thank you for the introduction. I'm doing great, very excited to have the opportunity to do this webinar together with you and to share some of our insights from Humans-in-the-Loop with our audience.
Yes, please.
So I will take the liberty of actually presenting as well. I would like to share my screen now and basically give a bit of context for our discussion. So as Clarisse introduced me kindly, my name is Gary Gavrilov. I am the Chief Commercial Officer of Humans-in-the-Loop. I would like to introduce our organization for those of you who are not familiar with the work of Humans-in-the-Loop. Essentially, we have been on the market for the past 5 years. And if I had to describe us in one sentence, it would be, we are the human workforce for a continuously better AI. Throughout our presence in the market, we have had the pleasure and the privilege to provide professional humans for the AI learning loop, performing in the beginning, manual dataset collection, annotation, and also model validation that has been required in different industries to train and keep machine learning models up to date. What's interesting about Humans-in-the-Loop is that we are also a social organization. We have a very strong social impact at the core of our mission. We have been fortunate enough to be recognized and awarded a number of times for our work, which aims to provide dignified remote working opportunities to people and communities that have been affected by war and conflict in their respective country of origin. We're also quite proud to be able to say that we are a very diverse organization, very mindful of gender equality, which is reflected in the fact that over 52% of our partner network and our workforce is comprised of women. We're also fortunate enough to work with some amazing partner organizations in places like Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Turkey, Lebanon, and other places in the world. We've been recognized by the MIT Solve organization. We received the Annot Prize for Innovation in Refugee Inclusion, and several other key institutions have recognized our impact in this field. On the more professional or commercial side of things, due to the quality of work, Humans-in-the-Loop has been trusted by over 100 AI companies, ranging from small, innovative, and disruptive startups to enterprise level businesses, Fortune 500 companies, and academic institutions that have trusted us and have chosen us to handle their machine learning data needs. And this is a small subset of the clients that we've had the privilege to work with over the past 5 years. I would like to kind of win you over and to have you think of Humans-in-the-Loop as your machine learning competency partner. On the data side of the machine learning ecosystem, if we look at how the whole process and workflow is structured, if we take the initial point as the data set collection, that is the acquiring, the sourcing of your training data, which will hopefully reflect the real world conditions within which you would like your machine learning system to be deployed and to be able to make accurate predictions in. We have been engaged in numerous data collection mandates in the automotive, agricultural, geospatial segments. But carrying over from that initial point, Humans-in-the-Loop also has deep expertise in the field of labeling or annotating of that data and preparing it for ingestion into your machine learning system. Our focus is predominantly on the computer vision, so in the computer vision domain, but we have also worked with a number of natural language processing partners as well. We tend to be completely platform agnostic, which allows us to work with both enterprise level licensed solutions as well as open source, community supported data annotation and labeling solutions, which makes us, a valuable component in the community because we're also contributing to the development of those systems. So data set collection, data set annotation, the basic building blocks of the data side of your AI system. From there into going already into deployment, Humans-in-the-Loop also has expertise and experience in what you can call let's say the human supervision stage of the development and the operation of your AI system. That can include specific techniques such as real-time edge case handling, setting up of a human-in-the-loop process or workflow as part of a broader active learning workflow, as well as including a trained workforce in a reinforcement learning loop, which includes human feedback. And today's presentation and today's session is kind of focused on, let's say, this part of the process and the part where we keep the human in the loop. The challenge, and as Clarice kind of eloquently put it in the beginning of the session in her introduction, we are at a pivotal point currently in the industry. AI systems have definitely spilled out from these specialized niche segments of the industry into basically our daily lives. And we are only going to see this more and more in the future. So this then raises the question and also poses the challenge: how do we as humans interact with these systems, and what are the consequences of their use in fields or in a subject matter that we do not traditionally think as something which is susceptible to automation, or fields where we have this innate distaste or distrust of having the decisions made for us by something which is not even human. Speaking in more practical terms, there are mission critical applications where AI systems are being employed. Humans-in-the-Loop has quite a bit of experience in data annotation in the medical field, where essentially it is a pretty structured and sort of non-reactive process where decisions are not being made on the spot by these AI systems, and they are simply used to augment or kind of to empower human decision making. That will definitely take a shift as trust grows in the machine learning systems that we see out there. And these applications will truly become mission critical because those are going to be instances where AI systems are making decisions that at that moment affect human life and can make the difference between safeguarding human life and human health and safety and basically putting it at risk. And in addition to that, or as a consequence of that, we are going to see, and we are already seeing, a much stronger emphasis on the regulatory part of the industry. So as I'm sure our audience knows quite well, recently, the pan-European legislation for the AI Act actually moved closer to becoming an actual law. And this is something that is going to be a fact that every single player within the AI industry is going to have to face and is going to have a ready reaction and a plan in place for how to work not around, not through, not over, but with this regulation. They will also need to be able to demonstrate that compliance, and will need to be able to demonstrate those checks and balances that are in place, that are required by the regulatory bodies, but also, and this is especially important for, let's call it the client side, where the public opinion, perhaps much more than the regulatory requirements, will require AI companies to earn and maintain the trust in their systems. And as a component of that, there is also this challenge of what are the mechanisms and processes and policies in place to guarantee the ethical component of an AI system. What ensures that, you know, the human needs are put on the top, and they never kind of go any lower than that as a priority. Basically, having humans keeping human needs in top, and basic fundamental human rights as a key insurpassable component of an AI system. I'm jumping a little bit into the specifics of how we at Humans-in-the-Loop approach this challenge. In one sentence, our proposal for this is the Human-in-the-Loop platform, or the Human-in-the-Loop service. I would like to illustrate this because I know that these conversations tend to kind of veer off into a bit of an unstructured direction. So I would like to tie this in with the very straightforward specifics of how we approach this challenge. Our proposal for the Human-in-the-Loop platform essentially involves our clients and our customers who already have an AI system in production, basically deployed, working and making decisions and inferences in a variety of scenarios. We normally kick off the conversation with an obvious definition of the scope of work, trying to understand what this system is put in place to do, and where are the places where checks and balances need to be introduced, where are the deficiencies in the machine learning model that a human will need to account for or compensate for or be a guarantee for. Basically, after we understand those requirements, we propose and we put together a custom interface for our clients. And we also select the most suitable workforce that will execute those steps in order to match the requirements on our client side. We have also developed our own API integration as a first step of this broader human-in-the-loop platform that Humans-in-the-Loop as a company is currently developing. And this is our way of essentially meeting our clients more than halfway and not relying on them already having in place all of these systems and these processes to be able to handle this. We will assist in the integration of this API, which will then allow our customers to send us alerts, requests, tasks, or jobs, depending on a given scenario, that we would then process, validate, confirm, or reject, depending on the requirements of the scenario, and in an integrated and automatic way, pipe the data back into our client systems, if need be, on a 24/7, 365 schedule, again, depending on the exact scenario or the exact use case, and with a response time that can range from seconds or minutes all the way into hours or days, accommodating the requirements of the client, and also keeping in mind that this process, in order to be effective, must also be efficient in terms of the financial bottom line for our clients. Humans-in-the-Loop for the past 5 years has developed expertise in different industries. We're fortunate enough to work with certified medical doctors, which allows us to take on data annotation projects in the medical field, dealing with AI systems in the field of radiology, ultrasound, robotic surgery, and other specializations. We also have amassed quite a bit of experience in geospatial data processing, working with drone imagery, satellite imagery, working with companies developing AI systems for response to natural disasters. In the automotive sector, ranging from autonomous vehicles all the way to traffic monitoring or damage assessment for fleet vehicles or car rental vehicles. In the industrial sector as well, in manufacturing, recycling, in the logistics subsegment, across agricultural and retail as well. So the expertise amassed doing data collection and data annotation over the past 5 years kind of puts Humans-in-the-Loop in a perfect space to employ those teams in these industries in a human-in-the-loop service scenario. And broadly, I would like to think, and I would like to propose to our audience to look at these use cases in 2 main categories that I will refer to as mission-critical applications, and these are actual use cases that Humans-in-the-Loop has been engaged in over the past years. So if you remember a few slides back, mission-critical applications are those applications where 99% accuracy is simply not enough, okay? There could be literally human lives at stake, where a 1% inaccuracy may lead to bodily harm or death. And in those scenarios, Humans-in-the-Loop is able to provide an integrated workforce that can be engaged, as the current use case is, on a 24/7, 365 schedule, essentially monitoring and being a safety net for the AI system, which is in place, and handling of any exceptions, edge cases, or errors in detecting of the status, the position, and other parameters around a patient in hospital care, in a hospital setting. A different, although equally mission critical for the industry use case would be the handling of exceptions and edge cases in an autonomous industrial equipment scenario, where, for example, in freight or logistics operations, autonomous vehicles may not always be able to recognize either their correct movement pattern or the correct load identification or cargo identification, which can and will grind operations down to a halt unless there is a system in place where a human operator can validate the observed scenario and provide these few percentages in terms of assistance to the AI model to ensure continuous and smooth operations. In much the same way for the car rental or fleet operations, damage assessment of incoming rental vehicles is a huge cost component for car rental companies and something that the industry has been looking to automate and streamline for a long time. And there's also the element of service excellence or customer satisfaction. An inaccurate system for damage assessment of rental vehicles in place could lead to a drastic increase in complaints from customers and disputes of damage assessments and damage invoicing, which is a has a direct monetary effect on the company's operations. So in the current scenario, Humans-in-the-Loop proposed a validation workflow where a human workforce inspects all images pre-annotated by the AI system and either confirms or rejects the assessed damage. And as a next step in the workflow, we are in discussion to provide additional annotation, further qualifying the severity of the damage, which provides yet another opportunity for the company to improve the financial performance of that part of their operations. And perhaps, or to me at least, one of the most interesting use cases is where the human workforce works in concert with an early warning system for forest fires. In that scenario, any percentage of inaccuracy in the predictions or the observations made by the AI system could result in an enormous amount of human effort in the form of essentially fire brigades being sent to remote locations to intercept and to put out any potential forest fire, which is a great cost, as well as puts human lives in danger, because some of these locations could be extremely remote, and therefore a human validation workflow where every possible positive detection of an early the early stages of a forest fire is validated as a second layer by a human operator, therefore greatly reducing or entirely removing the risk of a false positive making its way through the system and triggering this massive response from the appropriate authorities. The other sort of big area in which human-in-the-loop workflow is extremely, or can be extremely valuable, is the continuous automated annotation. So these are scenarios where we're perhaps not talking about mission critical applications. We're talking about a continuous workflow where AI system in production is set up in a way that it continuously ingests new data from the field, and it requires a very streamlined, very well structured data processing workflow in order to ensure a consistently high level of accuracy of the model. And several applications that Humans-in-the-Loop have been involved in over the past 5 years are, for example, high volume annotation of data in a retail environment with shelf detection in a actual retail environment. We've also been involved in projects where we continuously annotate and supply additional training data for smart agricultural applications, as well as providing additional annotation and validation for transcribed and OCR financial and shipping documentation. As well as a currently in place integration for automated ad hoc data, ad hoc annotation of geospatial data through one of our partners that have developed a geospatial data platform, and they would like to provide this sort of integrated offering to their end clients, of which Humans-in-the-Loop is an automated component providing these automated annotations. So that kind of concludes my brief presentation, and I would like to leave this slide for just a couple of seconds to again reiterate my kind of desire to have you think of Humans in the Loop as your ML competency partner for data annotation and human supervision of AI systems. I'd like to thank you very much for the attention, and to those of you who are joining us live. And now, Clarice, I divert back to you to see if we have any questions from our audience and maybe have a brief discussion.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much first for the presentation and all the insights that you share with us today. Just first question, it's a very complex topic, and I don't think any of us in the industry can truly claim to see all of the moving pieces. I mean, I can't, definitely. So just if you can give our audience one or two key takeaways from this session, what would they be?
That's a great question, Clarice, and a very fair observation. The industry is moving ahead at such an unbelievable speed that I don't think that anybody can really make the claim that they can see all the pieces that are currently moving on the board. I also think that the topic of building a trustworthy AI system and the mechanisms in place to demonstrate the trustworthiness in that system becomes even more complex once you start taking into account the specific of each industry. So maybe my answer will be a bit broad, but if I was to be able to leave our audience with just two takeaways, and I know this may sound like a blanket statement. AI systems should complement, assist, and empower, not replace humans. So we have to be comfortable with this idea and the scenario where humans are indefinitely involved in the development, the training, the deployment, and the supervision of AI systems. And we need to understand that this is not a failure of the concept of artificial intelligence or machine learning. And it is not a compromise that we make in the face of an advanced technology just for the sake of, allaying very human fears and anxieties. Okay, I think if we can get behind this idea and be comfortable with the subject that even the most advanced AI system still has a human ultimately making the final decision or validating that decision, that is okay. That is not a failure of the concept, quite the opposite. And secondly, I would emphasize, and I know this comes from an machine learning competency company, but I would emphasize that the choice of your ML competency partner, particularly in this part of the cycle where we're talking about human supervision, having a human safety net, having human validation, is of absolute importance. That is not to say that the building blocks or the initial components of the workflow in terms of data collection, the initial data annotation are not important. But when we're talking about the subject matter of ethics, trustworthiness, and transparency, I think organizations need to be very aware that they need to be very aware of any compromise that they make for the benefit of the bottom line. So they have to be extremely conscious of the choice they make of their ML competency partner when it comes to human supervision. Does that make sense, Clarice?
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it brings us to upcoming question that was shared with us. But yeah, indeed, it's very, very interesting, Gary. Thank you. And I would like everyone to feel free to share any questions that you have with us.
Absolutely.
So please feel free to share questions. But we received one question which is about this particular point, so it's extremely interesting. What are the key elements of selecting a machine learning competency partner who can provide a human-in-the-loop service?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So there are several things that I would look out, and I will try to be as specific as possible to be as useful as possible to our audience, that I would be looking out for. So number one, I would say track record. When picking your ML competency partner, specifically for projects involving human supervision, setting up an active learning workflow or acute annotation workflow, that requires a level of trust and between the parties, and also puts more of a requirement for dependability on the side of the service provider, I guess. So how long has your service provider been in the industry? Do they have the data process, the annotation experience in the industry in which you are in, right? So if they have only been doing, say, data annotation projects within the autonomous vehicle, the automotive sector, and you currently have a workflow that requires human supervision in a medical setting, is that something that they're capable of taking on? As a consequence of how long they've been in the industry, obviously the longer they've been in the industry, the better that speaks to their abilities and their health as an organization, as a business. So that also will help you kind of understand or have an idea of, will my service provider be there for me in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years time? Because setting up a human supervision workflow with a partner is an immense undertaking, and it's also an investment on both sides. And to have your human supervision, human-in-the-loop partner not be on the market or decide to pivot in a different direction in a year's time, that puts you back to square one, right? And when we're talking about mission critical applications, that puts that much more of I guess, a strain on the whole system. So track record, number one, as a component of this, in terms of experience, how much experience do they have with monitoring and supervision of mission critical systems? Okay, a continuous automated annotation workflow with very kind of, well, not relaxed service levels, but let's say not as stringent service levels. So a response time ranging in the hours or the days is quite a different scenario than a mission critical application where you have a response time for the operator to validate or reject an alert in 30 seconds. That requires, the workforce, the supervision of that workforce requires the proper system to be in place, the architecture to be at the level where it can handle requests back and forth in the required timeline. So obviously, a partner that has had the experience, the prior experience in mission critical applications tends to be, I think, the better choice, as opposed to someone who is just stepping into this. Number two, I would say the workforce in terms of location, the makeup of that workforce, and the relationship between the workforce and the partner as a core company or core team. For example, is my service partner a large-scale organization with a crowdsourced workforce that maybe there is constant turnover, there are constant changes, it's largely anonymous, because the whole concept of crowdsourcing is essentially to allow people to, jump on and jump off of the queue, and to be, available at different times of the day or for different periods of time. is that something that you are prepared to work with? Is that something that is even applicable to your particular supervision scenario? So if you can rely on your partner to put together a team that you will work together for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and there's very little turnover in that team, there's a certain amount of experience and just knowledge that gets accumulated, which works to your favor, right? And if that team, for one reason or another, undergoes a drastic change, half of the team leaves and new people have to be onboarded, then how straightforward, how easy is it going to be to retrain these new teammates, right? And how much of an impact would that have on the actual supervision of your system? And I guess finally, I would say, does my provider adopt and maintain the principles of ethical AI? So when any AI company is faced with, let's call it public scrutiny or public attention, and there is a need to demonstrate transparency, trustworthiness of your system, you have a human supervision element in the mix. It is important for you to be able to clearly state, how this is organized, who are the people, which is the organization that is helping you achieve this, and for you to be comfortable, but I guess even proud to stand side by side with them and have full confidence, right, that you have chosen them and you're ready to kind of present your face to the public when talking about these issues. Yeah, I think probably those would be my 3: track record, workforce location, and the relationship with their workforce, and to what extent they adopt and they are able to maintain the principles of ethical AI. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Gary. We receive a second question from our audience, which is, what are the SLAs that we can expect from human responses in monitoring AI systems? What are the system level agreements that we can expect from human responses in monitoring AI systems?
Okay, that's a great question. So this to a large extent, especially in the case of humans in the loop, where we already have quite a bit of experience with, let's call them both types of human supervision projects, mission critical and continuous annotation. It very much depends on the requirements and the expectations of the client. We have mission critical projects underway where the response time is up to 30 seconds. So Humans in the Loop was able to understand well enough the scope, understand well enough the stakes for not adhering to those SLAs, and that they have nothing to do with the financial bottom line, although there are considerations on that side as well, but we're talking about human lives. So Humans in the Loop was able to propose and to set up multiple teams with the required supervision for each team, so that on a 24/7, 365-day-a-year schedule, we are able to maintain a 30-second response time. Obviously, that requires, as the case is, multiple teams. It is up to the client to decide for their particular application what is the sort of the minimum or the maximum response time that they can afford, right? Because that also will affect also the complexity and the cost of the whole supervision project. If our audience would like to kind of submit a further probing question on that, I'd be happy to continue on, but I hope that kind of provides a bit of clarity. I mean, I can probably add a little bit more to that. It is also quite interesting because Humans in the Loop is a globally distributed organization, as are some of our clients. So apart from the service level in terms of reaction time for our supervisors, there is also the issue of the service window, okay? So the service window can also massively impact the required team size, the required shifts, the required supervision, where we have projects ranging from essentially business hours operations across a single time zone to 24/7, 365 service windows, where essentially we are on call and monitoring continuously. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Gary. One more question. What are some of the pitfalls when setting up a human-in-the-loop supervision workflow?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Yeah, so I think for me personally, the number one pitfall that I see is being focused on the financial cost of setting up the initial HITL workflow, okay, the initial supervision workflow, and then to try and optimize this as much as possible from the get-go, so from the initial moment, right? So I think the beauty of HITL, the HITL workflow as a concept is that once you've set it up and you have a smooth running process and a reliable team in place, the scaling of the process becomes that much easier. So in other words, adding further locations to monitor, making the SLA that much more exacting, adding further verification or annotation steps to the workflow, apart from the simple monitoring or just the monitoring and handling of alerts. These things become available to you, they become at your disposal. So if you've optimized from the beginning to get this process, the HITL process underway with just the bare minimum, you are then going to miss out on the economies of scale that you could be achieving if you had invested a little bit more upfront. We have a client that realized that the teams they had working for them with HITL over 2 years are extremely solid and very, very dependable. So the client, as all companies, they are looking to optimize, but they did not want to reduce team size and they did not want to shut down whole teams as part of this optimization. So then they realized that with a small change in the workflow, in fact, it wasn't even a change in the workflow, it was a change in the interface of the monitoring tool, they could scale 2 or 3 times without ever seeing a cost increase, because they had already put that system in place and invested in it properly to set it up for them to then scale without having to think about further cost along the way. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Gary. I don't think, let me check, but I don't think that we have more questions. And I would like to be a bit mindful of the time of everyone. So Gary, do you want to add something just to close up the session?
I would just like to basically invite our entire audience and all of our friends and partners and potential clients who decide to review this session at a later date to reach out to us at any time with any question. Humans-in-the-Loop is here for you. We are here to stay, and we'd be more than happy to explore together with you side by side how we can put our experience to use to help you build a more safe, transparent, and trustworthy AI system. Feel free to reach out to us. And again, my thanks to everyone who attended the session and everyone who is watching this webinar at a later date.
Thank you, everyone. We will close it, and I wish you all a beautiful day, and we hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you
very much, Clarice. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gary.
All the best.